So I'm now driving through what would have been the internment camp. I mean, all the buildings around here are now gone, but this is the grounds. These are the grounds for the camp, and this place would have been full of people. Over 10,000 Japanese people, most of whom were American citizens. Over 10,000 of them living right around here during World War II. All right, here I am at the Manzanar Cemetery. So this is where the Japanese interned here in this concentration camp, one of several across the country during World War II. This is where they buried their dead. Needless to say, the internment of the Japanese Americans during World War II was wrong for many reasons. Number one, it was illegal. It was unconstitutional, and the president recognized that. Well, how the president, FDR, could understand that and still go through with that is beyond me. I think it was intolerable. I think if you can do it to one group of people, you can do it to a different group of people. If it's not you and it's them this one time, it's going to be you next time. And it's going to be some other group after that. You cannot cede your civil liberties for temporary security, because then you will have no more liberty left at some point. This is a beautiful view, though. These are the Sierra Nevada. They are aptly named, right? Because the Sierra Nevada means snowy mountains, I think. Here we are in the middle of June, and there's quite a bit of snow still on the mountains. This is the most dramatic part of the mountain range. This is the eastern slope of the Sierra. I think you can see Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the range and also the tallest mountain in the lower 48. But anyways, back to the internment/concentration camp. They are, internment and concentration are interchangeable words. When you forcibly remove an entire group of people without trial, without any sort of litigation or anything, you just broadly blanket, take 120,000 people away from their homes and their lives and their property and everything, and you put them in these little or big concentration camps. That's very sad. The reason places like this are important to learn about and why they're still relevant is because we could descend into a dark hole at any time. Don't forget that World War II was only like a couple generations ago. And mass hysteria during that time against an ethnic group, and it doesn't have to be an ethnic group, it can be anybody. It can be anybody. It does not have to be it doesn't even have to be an immutable characteristic. But the point is that this hatred and this hysteria over personal security trumped personal liberty. And that is the antithesis of this country, right? America is supposed to be the safeguard, the world's safeguard for freedom and liberty and democracy. And we totally fell short just, what was this, 80 years ago about? And this is an ongoing battle. The fight against tyranny is ongoing. It doesn't end in a time of war after the war's over. And people don't realize, but we're always in some sort of war. Our country has been at war my entire lifetime. In my opinion, not legitimately, but that is the case. And whenever you're in a so-called crisis, like the government said during World War II, they were in a crisis, and it was a crisis. Even in a legitimate crisis, the forces of power will try to use that crisis as an excuse to build more and more power, to take more and more power away from you. And that will end up ruining people's lives, and it will end up ending people's lives. So anyways, this site, Manzanar, one of several Japanese internment camps, not even the biggest by far. There were many other ones across the country, in Arkansas, in Idaho, in Wyoming, in Arizona, in Utah, and all over. This was just one of them, but it's a reminder that, like Benjamin Franklin said, those who give up liberty for security deserve neither liberty nor security. And not to get too controversial or anything, but unfortunately it has to be said, I challenge you to think about all the cases in our modern day life where we choose security over liberty and we slowly cede away our public power to people in authority, the elite, etc. Because I can think of plenty of instances in the past few years where people have willingly and easily and happily gone along with whatever the so-called experts, whatever the so-called people in power say, because they think they're doing the moral thing or the right thing. And let me tell you, it's not always that cut and dry. It's not always the case. The people who gladly sent innocent Japanese people in America during World War II to concentration camps thought they were doing the right thing in the name of national security or patriotism or whatever, even though we now know that it was completely not only unwarranted, but completely illegal. So anyways, food for thought. My point was that you cannot just blindly trust. It's trust but verify, right? Don't just go along with what the so-called experts say because they are experts. They're not always right. Just one last thing. The American public in World War II, a lot of them were totally fine with seeing the Japanese getting shipped off to concentration camps. They were sacrificing their personal liberty in the name of public security. They were sacrificing personal liberty because they gladly stomped all over the Constitution, or at least they gladly went along with a government that was ripping apart a Constitution that we should hold very dear, near and dear to our hearts, because it has very good values. But we don't always follow it, and we can't always assume that our government will follow it. It is a constant battle. It's just a piece of paper after all. People will do what they want. But they sacrificed their personal liberties, even though they weren't Japanese. Every American sacrificed their personal liberty if they went along with what happened to the Japanese, and it was all in the name of public security. So I challenge you to always keep that in mind, because these things happen all the time in our modern society. When you take any American citizen, lock them up without a trial, that is illegal, that is unconstitutional, and that is exactly what happened here. So anyways, this is wrapping up my visit to Manzanar, one of these so-called war relocation centers. One of several, like I said, but this wasn't even a big one. I mean, on this road I'm driving, in the 1940s, we would have been surrounded by buildings, by manufactured housing. It's all gone now, but there's still a National Park Service site here to remember what went on here. And some of the structures are still original, though, like the monument, the obelisk we saw at the cemetery, that's original. This building up here, this white building, that is actually original, but it was only moved back to this location this year in January. But that's where members of it's another three-letter agency, I think the WRA, War Relocation Authority, that's where they would have lived. So, yeah. Anyways, I encourage you to do your own research about things like American internment camps and things, because we all know about the concentration camps in Europe, which objectively were far worse, because people were sent to those concentration camps to die. But we have to realize that America is not infallible and that we make mistakes as well. So that's why it's important to learning about these things. Anyways, I'm going to head back to Highway 395. This is as far north as I'll go in California on this trip. I got to get south. So I will see you guys probably in the Central Valley or maybe in the Southern Sierra Nevada. Anyways, thanks for watching. So like any prison or like any detention internment camp, there were watchtowers and there were guards in those towers with spotlights and guns to remind you that, yeah, you're not going anywhere. I think this is a great message. Frank Kikuchi said, "I still think this is the best country in the world, hands down. It's just up to everybody to see that it stays that way." I couldn't agree more. I love this country very much, and that's why we should care about making sure this remains the freest and most prosperous nation in the world, where everybody is a part of that. So they have this kind of like mock setup here where it says, "Stop, military police." And it's just kind of for the look and feel and everything. This guy scared the crap out of me. I hate when they put pictures of people in windows like that.
It may be possible to make good Americans out of the strength in the world. That is the American way.
My obligations and responsibilities as President of the United States, the stars and stripes will fly over the coal mine.
So nearly all of the original buildings are now gone, but there's still a couple structures to explore that help provide some interpretation to what went on here. So the buildings where the Japanese people lived were very shoddily constructed. They put them up at a rate of 2 an hour. So they're definitely not earthquake proof or anything like that, but the buildings were taken apart for building material after the war. Some buildings were taken whole, and in those cases you can still see them in parts of the Owens Valley. So you're going to get to know your community here very well, because it's like a middle school locker room, at least with the showers. And then at least in middle school locker rooms, you have stalls for the toilets though. There were no trees, nothing green. It was all brown. By the time we arrived, they were in the middle of a dust storm. You couldn't open your mouth because all the dust would come in. You could barely see, and the only way to keep your eyes clean was just to cry and let the tears wash your eyes out. It was a horrible feeling, and there was total confusion. FBI intelligence reported no threat of espionage in the Japanese community. So I'm walking to the fish pond. They called it a fish pond. Actually, this area looks like a manicured lawn with some newly planted trees. But let's see what's back here. I don't think there's water. I think that's it. The grass looks nice, but there's no water in the little pond.